Today's guest is James Hoffer from the Food Bank in Dayton, Ohio. For over 40 years, the Food Bank has served as the primary source of food for the Hunger Relief Network in the Miami Valley of Ohio. The Food Bank, the only one of its kind in the area, relieves hunger in the community through a network of partner agencies by acquiring and distributing food. The Food Bank provides the infrastructure for more than 100 member food pantries, community kitchens, and shelters that serve as the charitable Hunger Relief Network. This might seem like a funny match for the Composter, but the Food Bank has a robust community garden run by James Hoffer, and he began their composting operation in 2019. I really love the addition of the compost cycle in with food recovery and production. It just makes sense. James talks to us about their in-vessel continuous flow composting unit that they purchased through Green Mountain Technologies, the compost scene, and so much more. Listen up to hear from James Hoffer. Welcome to The Composter, a podcast for compost lovers. I'm your host and fellow composter, Jane Murner. Join me in practical conversation between industry professionals and farmers with a passion for producing quality compost. We're going to dig deep into the science, technology, and art of compost production so that we as composters can help enliven the world's soils. This episode of The Composter is brought to you by Viably. As the master distributor of Comtech products in North America, Viably helps their customers to uncover the most forward-thinking solutions in the waste and recycling industry, including the proven 4-step Comtech compost process of shred, turn, screen, and separate, which produces healthy, contaminant-free compost while optimizing commercial production efficiency. Viably is also the distributor of the Turbo Separator food waste depackaging system and the Harp Renewables biodigester. Both of these revolutionary machines can help composters incorporate food scraps into their compost process, creating a more nutritious end product and the opportunity for an enhanced bottom line. You can learn more about Viably and their portfolio of compost solutions at thinkviably.com. While there, request a complimentary consultative meeting to discover how Viably can help your compost operation deliver what is possible. Green Mountain Technologies has been designing and building innovative composting solutions since 1992. Our client base includes large commercial and municipal composting facilities, small-scale community organizations, farms, and institutions of all types. Our EarthFlow in-vessel composting system and our simple pre-engineered ASP packages are ideal solutions for farms and community composting organizations. We're proud to give back 10% of our profits to nonprofit community and environmental organizations. Learn more at compostingtechnology.com. Enjoy the show. James, welcome to The Composter. So happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're with the Dayton Food Bank. Can you tell us about Dayton Food Bank and what you do there?
Yeah, so Dayton Food Bank, we are obviously located in Dayton, Ohio, but we are part of Feeding America. So we are one of 200 food banks across the country. We serve a small geographic territory here in the greater Dayton area. And as members of Feeding America, our core mission is food rescue and distribution through a hunger relief network. So we work with here locally about 115 partner agencies where we acquire and then redistribute food to those agencies at no cost that then get that out through their community. It could be a church pantry, could be a feeding site, could be some other type of meal program. But essentially, we are food rescue at the core and then distribution as a part of the Feeding America National Network.
You've taken it that extra step, and food rescue includes feeding people, and then I'm sure there's stuff left over, and you guys have gotten really creative and are now making compost. So can you tell us, I guess, a couple of things, how you got yourself involved with this and how composting got started at the Dayton Food Bank?
Yeah, so I originally got involved as a volunteer with a garden initiative that was starting here at the food bank. We are adjacent to our urban core of Dayton, Ohio, in West Dayton. So we have about a 10-acre campus, and 3 acres of that was a previously abandoned parking lot. So we set out originally in 2016, me as a volunteer, to develop an urban farm to help demonstrate agriculture, urban agriculture, and really just create greater access to fresh foods, fresh and healthy foods, to the people that we serve. And how it came about to me, honestly, with I've kind of pinballed around with a lot of careers, but growing and gardening and those type environmental initiatives have always been kind of a core of just who I am, whether I was in it as a career or not. So started as a volunteer in the garden, saw a huge need for soil, but then additionally saw, what the kind of pain points were at the food bank, and then viewed some resources that were potential. So here in a parking lot, obviously we had to import all of our growing media, and as a food rescue organization, and Feeding America last year retail rescued over 4 billion pounds of fresh food. Our goal is to rescue 5 billion pounds this year. So inevitably dealing with food, where regardless of where it is in the supply chain, there is spoilage, there's damage, there is, food products that are, not going to be served, sold, whatever the case may be. So we really looked at it as a closing the loop for our own institution. Let's use a resource that we already have, that we are dealing with in one way, which was traditionally sending it to landfill just because of the cost, and lack of any composting here in our region. So we kind of set on that path to close the loop in our own institutional waste stream, because ultimately we viewed it, and I view it, as a valuable resource to be able to grow more food. So we can take food that is inedible, that we cannot serve to people, and fast forward to 2024, and now we're able to turn that back into our own on-site growing system. And with that, we produce about 20 tons of food each year, and compost about 100,000 pounds, about 50 tons of spoilage, which would be otherwise gone to landfill through our food rescue, normal operation.
Let's dig in about the system you're using. Did you say it started in 2020?
So composting actually started in 2019. We got our license through Ohio EPA and became, a full-blown licensed facility in 2020. But really, the composting journey started way back before that. We had kind of chased some grant funding because we are a nonprofit organization that deals in food rescue and distribution. Our job, our mission statement is no one should go hungry. So really, core mission is to feed people first and foremost. So it started quite back. We tried for a grant and failed, learned a lot of lessons through that grant process. And then we were actually able to get the grant funding in 2019. Equipment arrived, got everything set up. We started composting slowly, end of 2019. And then, we've been nonstop since of early 2020 as a licensed commercial facility.
Okay, so let's dig into what you're using. It looks like you have a shipping container that's modified with some equipment from Green Mountain Technologies.
Yes, it's considered to be the Intermodal Unit from Green Mountain Technology, and it does use a repurposed shipping container to create the actual vessel. So it is an in-vessel system. So again, we are adjacent to the urban core of a city. I have a college campuses, not main campus, but a branch campus right across the street from me. We have a police station very close. We have residents that live within a few hundred yards, and then actually 2 high schools that are within a half mile. So in-vessel was really, after a lot of diligent research, that was the route that we went, just because of our proximity to neighbors, and obviously the high desire and really the marching orders that I had from our CEO, after lots of convincing that we're going to open a composting facility here, as the number one was no odors, right? And that's really what industry wide, right? Those are the biggest complaints, is odors regarding composting or landfills. Lots of different operations. It's their number one concern. No different here, because of our neighbors, because we serve people directly here on a daily basis. That was high priority. So in looking at things, the intermodal unit for us became the most accessible route to go. One, with the intermodal unit, there's no need for any structure or building, no climate control around the actual vessel. There's lots of other great in-vessel composting technology out there. and a high number of those require them to be housed inside a structure, and typically a climate-controlled structure. So with the Intermodal Unit, we were able to pour a small cement pad, make the necessary electrical, connections, and then we were off and composting.
Have you been happy with it? How's it working?
Yeah, so we're coming up on 5 years. We've processed 400,000 plus pounds, so a couple hundred tons through those years. And yes, I'm very happy with it. It takes down a lot of the pain points in the composting process, from getting a solid mix, which obviously you know this, Jane, with the awesome operation that you have there. Getting your mix right from the beginning and building your piles definitely is a learning curve and takes a skill set and obviously equipment and resources to be able to build piles. So with the Intermodal Unit and the in-vessel system and the mixing system that Green Mountain Technology has developed, you literally load the material in and it does that for you. So having hours in a seat, using fuel, things of that nature, and just from an operator standpoint, it's very easy to train people on the operation of the machine. Now, of course, we do use tractors to move material around, but the main pain point that it really takes out, besides a lot of odor control, is that mixing process. We never have to worry about getting our mix right, as far as where we're at this point, right? There was a lot of trial and error in the beginning, don't get me wrong, of getting our moisture right, getting, you're dealing with food waste, so you're always dealing with inconsistent feedstocks, with what's coming in on a daily basis. So, getting that dialed in over the course of the years, the huge benefit to the system that we use is that front end mixing process.
And what are you using for your carbon sources?
So we use a variety of things, mostly wood chips and, aged leaves. We additionally use cardboard and shredded paper. We also have a community-facing program. So we do have a bucket exchange program that we also operate as part of our facility here. And that really came about, through some process improvements for our, warehouse operations, because the original intent for our facility was just to process our institutional waste. And there's lots of benefits that I could probably talk for hours about that have been operationally beneficial to the food bank as a whole. And obviously a huge mission and goal of ours is to be able to share that, across our national network. But with that, we were able to open up some capacity essentially and open a community-facing bucket exchange program. So with that, again, it's very, it's a varied feedstock that comes in consistently.
It's about 1 ton a week, it sounds like. But is it 1 ton a week, or is it 5 tons one week and no tons the next week?
It's relatively steady because we obviously control the stream that comes from our warehouse. We have the ability, because all of that material that is flowing through there needs to be depackaged. So we kind of build our composting schedule around what our warehouse's needs are. And then really what we get through the bucket program is what we get. We have pretty consistent numbers as far as what the volume is, but on average we're processing about 2 to 3 tons each week, as a combination between our community program and then our warehouse operation.
And the wood chips and leaves, are those just coming from like the municipality or landscapers? Or okay.
So we work with the local municipality that provides the wood chips. We actually work with one of our local community colleges that collects their own leaves from their campus, and then we use they deliver those leaves to us. They're also in the downtown area of the city of Dayton, so very close proximity to us. And then additionally, like through our bucket program, we encourage people to bring us their pizza boxes, and then that's kind of evolved to some other cardboard items. Of course, with our warehouse operation, lots of food comes in boxes, so we do collect cardboard from inside our operation too. And then we shred that cardboard and use it as a bulking agent, but also part of our carbon feedstock.
Wow, this is really great. And it seems like it integrates so well with the bigger mission going on there. You have so many partners to begin with, and this just brings in more connectivity to your whole community. Is this happening at other food banks? I haven't heard of this before.
So there are a couple other food banks. We certainly were not the first. The food bank in San Diego has been composting for quite some time. It's a lot different and a much bigger investment that they were able to make. So it is happening in a few places, obviously with what our goal is with our facility. And really it's our whole farm, not just our composting facility. We additionally have hydroponic greenhouses, raised bed gardens, orchards, pollinator gardens, lots of components to it that compost plays a huge role in. But the goal is, because we are a network that's trying to drive change in hunger, and obviously food and food waste is a huge part of that. So our hope is to become a model, yes, for other food banks to look towards. And I've worked with many. I know there's a lot that are, interested. They see the need in it. They see the benefit to it. But obviously, anybody across the composting spectrum knows this. Funding, being able to gather resources, having the expertise to do it, that's really not what the mission is of the food bank. So what my role is try to build capacity in our network and really try to be the person that's learned some of the lessons and help them accelerate where they want to get to.
Plastic is a huge problem in the compost industry. The OSC Packpack is a collective action campaign that works to reduce single-use packaging in the natural products industry. We inspire innovators to minimize waste while raising consciousness about the environmental impact of our choices. We empower brands, packaging manufacturers, and consumers to take action. When you take the Packpack, you pledge to make progress around circular packaging. You'll also receive a discount code to shop select products from leading natural products brands that you love. Click the link in the show notes to join the Packpack. Join me and composters from around the country at Compost 2025 in Phoenix, Arizona, January 27th to the 30th, where industry leaders gather to revolutionize composting. Don't miss keynote speaker Stephanie Katsaros, president of Brightbeat, a Chicago-based organization sharing insights on advancing environmental stewardship and social change. Network with professionals, attend workshops, and explore the latest innovations in composting. Register now at compostconference.com and use coupon code NOTILL for 10% off. See you there. And now, back to the show. Before we started recording, you were talking about the tomatoes that you're growing and that it's tomato season. And I know from our experience, our compost really helps our tomato crop thrive. Talk to us a little bit about what you're growing in the compost and the impacts you're seeing.
Yeah, this year's a great example of heat wave after heat wave. It has been, hot and dry and windy and, more odd than normal, weather conditions. So for us, because it's very important, we serve an extremely vulnerable population. We have over 24% of the residents in our area are food insecure. So with that, our growing system is really designed to be able to produce chemical-free, the best possible produce that you would expect to buy top dollar at a high-end farmer's market or high-end grocer. So we're able to be able to grow things by using compost and healthy soil systems without herbicides, without pesticides, without any additional synthetic fertilizers. We use a heavy dose of compost twice a year. We amend our beds, of course, use that when we plant into our tomato holes, and then we really just let them go. There's no additional inputs other than sunshine and water throughout the growing season, and it's something that our clientele looks forward to every year. This is just my own personal opinion, but there's no better thing to eat than a tomato fresh from a garden. The taste is just incomparable. And when you add compost in and you make the healthiest plants possible, then that transfers to the plant. So I wish this was, you could see a picture of this, but normally, we're in August, things start to look a little crunchy. Things are starting to die back a little bit. They've gone through some of the stress of summer. But if you could see the tomatoes, you would see they're actually absolutely thriving. And it's just such a perfect example of what the benefits are of compost, from soil retention and just having all the things in there that those plants need to thrive. And that's really part of what our messaging is around our compost and food rescue operation. Those fruits and vegetables that can't be eaten, they have all the nutrients that we need, right? They have the vitamins and minerals. And by putting those back into a soil system, you're just recycling right back into next year's crop. So we believe that it's a great example of being able to show, what food waste can become, which is, great, healthy produce next season.
You were talking about some of the varieties of tomatoes, and I know this is a compost chat, but you mentioned that I think it was the Cherokee Purples, which is my absolute favorite tomato. And it is like just the taste of pure summer, especially when grown in that healthy soil and you get all the nuances and the flavor of all those colors that are in there. And just, yeah, it's awesome that you're growing those in the food bank garden. All right. So this next question is the complicated one. But if you had a blank check to spend on the food bank, where would you spend it?
Oh, that's such a great, difficult question. Because selfishly, I would love to spend it on our garden operation and increase, right, all the things that we can do out here. But ultimately, if there was a blank check, I would fund the food bank's overall operation into perpetuity. And that obviously is, really to be able to just continue to drive our core mission of feeding hungry people and supporting our network of partner agencies. Because again, for us, it doesn't just happen in a silo for us. And this is, definitely what the model is across the country. The Feeding America network agencies, rely upon a robust network of partner agencies. And that blank check really wouldn't just be for us. It would trickle down to all of those other folks. Because you have to imagine with most things, there's an age gap in a lot of service providers. So historically, most food rescue has gone through houses of worship. We kind of think, or at least I do here in the Midwest, of a church pantry as kind of the staple in most communities. And a lot of those people are getting kind of old. They've been driving this for a long time, and there's not really a backfill of people behind them. So really the desire would be to help fund those other organizations that are really the front line in the trenches, directly serving their communities, which is where the biggest impact happens.
I hadn't thought of that. You're right about, I think they call it the silver tsunami of, I think of it with different industries that are getting older and not being replenished, but you're right with even like church groups. I'm seeing that really, getting older. That's a great vision to keep that going forever. That's really a beautiful way to spend that money. Okay. So what is your vision for the future of composting? Just a small question for you. And any thoughts on how we get there?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts. And actually, it ties into a project that I'm happy to say we just submitted a proposal for through US EPA Community Change Grant. When we started this, we were the only composting facility in our region. There's one big commercial facility that kind of operates in the middle of our state, but Ohio is very far behind in composting infrastructure. So after us, we had a university, University of Dayton, modeled after our farm, and they have a Green Mountain Earth Flow. It's a different model, a larger model. But then we became two composters here in this region. And from that, we got a lot of support through our solid waste district because we were able to allow them to check some boxes for diversion. So it's became a beautiful partnership, but it became a little bit burdensome from our standpoint because since we kind of led this charge here, there's been lots of conversation about our own expansion and to make our composting facility bigger and to serve a bigger, swath of our community. And I've always just had a lot of pushback towards that because it's not against, but it's really, it's not what it's not what our organization's core mission is. We got into composting because it fit a need and helped us, close the loop here with our own cycle, but to be able to do that across a region really is not in our wheelhouse. So it is developed to where we have a pretty good proposal, I believe, for a robust public-private partnership through that community change grant initiative. And really those are to address environmental and social injustices that have been done in communities. So if you're unfamiliar with Dayton, Ohio, it's considered a city of innovation. Lots of things invention-wise, this came out of Dayton. There was a place of industry for quite some time, but it's also a place of systemic and historic racism. So part of this project is to make composting accessible. And that's really a key point for trying to rebuild vibrant and healthy communities, and really looking at this from a total food systems approach. So we know we have food waste that can be a valuable resource putting back into a healthy soil system. So what we've developed is a countywide program to bring residential composting to a little bit over 500,000 people, but frame it in a way that is equitable to all people. So people will have access not only to being able to drop off food scraps and divert from landfill, but they'll also have access to the finished product, right? So if we have urban farmers, home growers, people that just want to beautify their neighborhoods, they're going to have access to free compost through our municipalities. So we have a plan to install 6 facilities, and it's really a public works project, right? As composters, and we hear a lot of this, at least I do from the things that I read and people that I talk to about, there's a lot of issues between municipalities and jurisdictions and private composting companies, because really it's been more on the private side that has driven most of the food waste diversion. So we're really trying to create a symbiotic model from a municipal standpoint that ties into the bigger picture. So not just looking at food waste as a diversion tactic that is good for the environment as it relates to, methane emissions. We really want to look at compost as it is a valuable resource to communities that need it the most. So our goal with this project and my vision for composting is more robust partnerships across municipalities, because we all know this as composters that it happens at all scales, from our backyards to, industrial. We kind of fall in the middle as an institutional facility. So we really are looking at a project that is, scalable both ways. So there's lots of education. We know we need lots of education to the public about diversion, what can be composted, what can't be composted, and obviously what the benefits are of just diverting that material. And really the message is it's a resource, right? Food scrap is a resource. It is not a waste material. But because it's classified as a waste material, I believe that falls under public works. Any other material that's valued as a waste item is recycled in some way. So glass, plastic, cardboard, paper, all of these things are managed through municipal functions because there's a value in that stream. And what their job is to put it where it is, the most value with the next best use. And I believe that food holds a place in that. So part of our mission and this project is to transform our transfer station that is here in Montgomery County, and really put food scrap, food waste at the forefront of that as one of the most valuable resources that we should be making a very pointed effort to collect.
I'm there with that vision for sure. And I'm thinking, I have like 2 parts to this follow-up. One is, a lot of my listeners know last fall I went to Austria, where there's they had a ban on food scraps entering the landfill back in 1992. So they're just really ahead of the US in developing their compost facilities. And there's a beautiful public-private partnership, but it's actually opposite the way you're saying it. It's private composters, it's actually mostly farms that are working with the municipalities, and the municipalities are getting public messaging out, but they're allowing the private composters to make the compost, which has been really great for a couple of reasons. One, the placement of the small farms around has been a little bit better for composting. It's driving better quality, just because they're privately owned and they're actually needing to make money on it. So there's, I don't know, I want to be careful about how I word things because people can take pride in municipal projects as well, but there tends to be the private stuff drives quality often, not always. But I don't know, I was watching how it worked there and I really appreciated that model. It doesn't mean it has to work here. It could also work as well. I'm in Rhode Island. We have one central landfill and they also make compost, but it is just full of trash and glass and it's free and people take it and use it. but it's not something you'd want to put in your farm fields or really in your garden. So I'm just worried about a bunch of municipalities making that kind of compost. But we need so much more compost, and there's going to be all sorts of qualities out there, and we need so much.
That is a great point, Jane, because part of this is and part of the vision, and that's really where composters that have that expertise come into play. Because quality obviously drives, for me as a grower, quality is of the utmost importance, right? We don't want contamination. We don't want trash. We want the highest quality compost that we can generate in order to put into a healthy growing system. And that is very much top of line for this municipal project as well. So as part of it, we, the food bank, myself, my composting partner, Courtney here, we're going to be hands-on with them as far as training them with this technology and really trying to drive the quality. So it's really a robust partnership, and kind of really what our role is to be the technical composting experts, right? The municipalities have the ability, because they have traditionally they have funding, they have the equipment necessary. Most have yard waste sites, so they have at least some infrastructure already. And most of them have collection mechanisms for that yard waste. So being able to integrate it in there and fill the gap of, that technical expertise of driving quality compost. Because yes, I've certainly been the recipient of free municipal yard waste compost, at least here locally. And it's really just problematic, right? It's going to be full of weeds, trash, and it's not nutrient rich. So quality is a very, very high line item for this initiative. And one of our roles is to be able to provide that level of expertise that, we're not just making compost. We're not just trying to divert material. We're not trying to make, this pile smaller and this material just disappear. We want to create high quality product that has long-term benefits. So yeah. And again, there's lots of great models out there. And this is just another one that we're trying to develop that hopefully other municipalities can lead the charge. And if not, of course, right, it opens up commercial opportunities all around this. So by us building these facilities, because, we don't have a robust hauling program, we don't have a lot of bucket programs or any type of really like exchange of those materials here locally. And by building the infrastructure, they're actually going to be open to, and how it would be subsidized, making it available to residents at low or no cost, is through the commercial collection. So the hope is that we're going to be able to spur some entrepreneurs out there, that now that they have facilities that they can bring material to that is economic for them, that then more happens on the private sector.
I might have a misconception about Ohio, but I'm picturing a lot of large farms growing corn. There must be a big need for compost in those large farms.
No, you're not wrong. Ohio definitely is full of cornfields and soybean fields and lots of agriculture, right? Agriculture is the number one thing from Ohio. At least I think, we have some random things in the agricultural industry, like we produce the most Swiss cheese out of any state in the United States. Don't ask me how that happens, but there's lots of agriculture in Ohio. So yes, huge need for compost. And there is, it's difficult to find. Most of the organic growers, certified organic growers that I know, import it from states away. There's not a lot of facilities. So then, of course, there's not a lot of compost being generated. So lots of agriculture, lots of manure-based composting facilities. I believe Ohio has about 400 registered facilities, but most of those are either yard waste or strictly animal manures, animal mortalities. So the quality of compost, not only do we lack, just volumes of compost, we also lack in quality of compost.
There's such potential because you can make a great compost with manure, mortalities, corn, like trimmings, and food scraps. That sounds like amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I should say, yes, we do have a couple of pretty big cities. So Dayton obviously is a very urban area. We do have some big cities too, but all of them are surrounded by cornfields. So no misconception there on your part.
Okay, cool. Well, there's so much potential for compost use there then. That's amazing. We're at the last question, but this can go on. So what else do you want our listeners to know? Is there anything you want to share? Any helpful tips for other food banks that might want to have an in-vessel flow unit like you guys have, or anything in general?
Yeah. So in general, I guess, again, I guess we kind of sit at a unique position in the composting world, because ours is directly related to food insecurity. So if there was anything that I wanted other composters to know, is that they too can play a huge role in combating food insecurity. And most of it is just keep doing what you're doing, but look for other ways to partner with food banks. It may not be that they have the ability in-house to develop their own site and the funding to be able to do so. But if you have a composting facility that's close to one of Feeding America's 200 plus food banks across the country, I would say reach out to them and see if there's ways that you can partner. Because unfortunately, if there's not agriculture close by, the model is, we're going to feed animals if we can't feed people. And then really the only other option, if you don't have composting or you don't have some other compost related service in your vicinity, then the answer is landfill. So as we retail rescue more food, the amount that becomes spoilage and that we're not able to feed, that then becomes a downstream problem for all food banks across the country, is where is that waste going to go? So I would encourage people, hopefully we're going to be able to demonstrate this model that we're trying to create here in Montgomery County. But then additionally, there's lots of other avenues to assist in that realm.
James, it's been such a joy to talk to you.
You too.
You've got so much going on, and there's so many good things happening in Dayton, Ohio. Sounds amazing. Is there anything else you want me to share, like photos or anything we want to tag on for in the notes to the podcast?
Yeah, we have social media stuff. I try to stay off there, but we definitely have social media stuff that has lots of pictures and probably videos, things of that nature.
Yes, videos of the actual vessel would be great, I think, and helpful. That shipping container unit would be great. So we'll get a couple tags to those things. And amazing. Thank you. People will probably reach out to you with questions. So, but no need to answer them until you have time. So just know that you're so appreciated and great work. Keep it going.
Well, thank you, James. Thank you so much.
If you'd like to find out more about the food bank, check out thefoodbankdayton.org. I would love to see more food banks growing food and making compost. And if you have any questions or show suggestions for me, I can be reached at info@earthcarefarm.com. You can also check us out on YouTube on our Earth Care Farm channel or Instagram at earthcarefarm_RI. I have such a grateful heart for the no-till growers who produce this podcast, the many sponsors, and especially you, compost-loving listeners.